So before I get started, I'm just actually curious, show of hands, who in here is, I'd like to just know like what your involvement is with Nocode. So if you work for a company, how many people here like work for a company and you're using Nocode? Okay. And then how many people have an agency? Agency, yeah. And then like, was it entrepreneur? Entrepreneur, a lot of entrepreneurs, cool, okay. I love to see that because it means you're thinking about community. Sorry. What am I missing? Sorry, freelancer, oh, sorry, freelancer agency, yeah. Freelancer, you're working with clients. I think we can get started. Should we close the door? No. Okay. Hello. Come on in. Come on in. Don't be shy. You can come like sit up here too. I don't care. This is chill environment. Ah, all right. Hello. Yeah, feel free to sit on the floor. There is literally room up here if you want to sit. Don't be shy. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining. I love to see people that are interested in community. It makes me really excited. I know there's a lot of kind of like technical use cases happening today. This first part is going to be a little bit different because we're going to talk about community and kind of, it's going to be quite high level, but if you are interested in talking more, please come find me. I'll be at the Softr booth most of today and tomorrow. I love to talk about community. We can get into kind of the nitty-gritty details, but for the sake of time, it's going to be a little bit more high level. And then we're going to, in true Nocode and community fashion, bring one of our community members up to walk you through something he's been able to do with Softr, the Nocode company that I work for. So, all right, let's make sure it's working. Very quickly, for those of you I have not met, which is most of you, my name is Lizzie. I've been building community in a business context since about 2016. I'm also a former no-code designer, although I didn't even know it was called no-code at the time. I was working in, WordPress and Webflow and Squarespace for clients, and I didn't even know this whole world really existed. So I was on the periphery, and now I'm really excited to go deeper into it. And now I'm working full-time as the community lead at Softr. So in true community fashion, I like to just tell people some of the communities that I'm involved in, kind of like a way to get to know me. I Love Creatives is a wonderful community for creative entrepreneurs and freelancers. Super High is a other creative community teaching you how to code, UX. They don't have no code yet. We should get into them. I'm also an expat. I'm from the US, but I live in the Netherlands now, and I'm also involved in some animal welfare organizations. I really love animals. So, all right, so community is having a moment right now. I'm curious, like, how many of you guys have been hearing this word being tossed around in tech and business? All of a sudden it feels like it's so hot, because I definitely have been feeling this way. I've been building community since about 2016, but not since the past 5 years does it feel like a lot of companies are paying attention and they're really wanting to invest, even if they don't even really know what it is necessarily. They're like, I want that. But the thing is community has really been around in a business context for a long time, but it's been mostly kind of viewed as like a cost center. It's just been like an extension of customer support, or it's been an extension of marketing, or like a social media manager. So that's historically what it's been, and there hasn't been a lot of investment into it, but that's kind of changed in the past, I would say like 5 years. We've seen some companies that have really, really grown impactful programs that have had real tangible business value. One example at a large scale is Salesforce. You guys are familiar with Salesforce's community program. They have proved the value of this kind of use case, so I think more people are jumping on board. I also think it's a mix of like traditional broadcast marketing is just kind of becoming a bit saturated. People are kind of sick of just like the same old shit. Excuse my French. But so to kind of like set the ground, I always like to give somewhat of a definition, not to be like a gatekeeper, but there's just a lot of different ways we can define community, and I don't want to say this is the one definition, but for today, this is kind of how I view community, especially in a business context, because that's also what we're talking about. I mean, communities, I'm not going to say communities have been around the past 5 years. We all know this has been a thing since the beginning of time. But For a business, a community is people with shared commonality and interests coming together. They get inspired, they collaborate with one another, they share ideas, they find solutions to their challenges. And a true community really has like shared and aligned values, identities, and behaviors, right? So that's how you kind of spot a community. So really quickly before I move on, I want to talk about the difference between a community and an audience. Again, not to sound gatekeepery, but I think there's a lot of power when you can be specific in talking about community, especially since it seems like it's this buzzword and there's a lot of people still trying to figure out what it is. So an audience is sometimes confused with community. An audience is what I call, and what a lot of people call, one-to-many relationship. So it's like an email marketing campaign, right? So I'm the brand, I'm the business, I'm communicating with you. You can write back to me if you want, but that's about it. It's this like one-to-one and one-to-many relationship. It's kind of more transactional. Same with social media. It's a little bit that way. Sure, people can like comment within DMs with each other, but it's not really set up in that way. So it's about like, let me help you. And with community, it's all about many-to-many relationships. So it takes this and it turns it on its head and it says, hey, not only let me help you, but let me bring you together with other people that are interested in this thing and let you guys all help each other. And that's the beauty of community, right? So successful businesses can get community well, do community well. There's a lot of businesses that kind of fail at community. So I would say the biggest thing to think about when you're getting started is think about how your community can meet at least one of your business goals, some of you entrepreneurs out there, but you also want to think about meeting your member goals. And we'll get into that in a second of like how to figure that out. But as a tangible example, like at Softr, one of our business goals is to foster product adoption as an example. That's a very common goal that can be quite measurable. So we want to help foster product adoption through our community. So how can we help our members reach their goals? Well, one of our members might have a goal of, hey, I work in a company internally and I really need to find a cheap solution for this integration. But I'm lost and I don't know anything about Nocode and I need help getting started. So the community can be there to provide programming, a collaborative space, events, education to help the member reach their goals, which in turn helps us reach our goal of fostering product adoption. Okay, so how can it help? A lot of different ways. I'm just going to kind of run through these. I think maybe you guys probably already know this. Maybe it's obvious, maybe it's not. Again, we can talk about it after, but these are all the ways that really successful communities have tangible business value that can actually be measurable. So reducing customer support costs is a big one. So customer success, community directly can inject value into customer success. So you can look at things like ticket deflection, time to answer. This is a great way where you can set up a community that encourages and intrinsically motivates other community members to want to help other people reach their goals. Like once you learn something, it feels really good to teach somebody else how to learn something, right? That's just human nature. A community is a great way to create that type of environment, and it also helps you reduce support costs, especially at scale, right? As we start scaling, this is a beautiful way to do that. Increases virality, which is more like on the engagement side, right? So this is obvious. Miriam and Artur, our co-founders at Softr, have done a really good job of being grassroots with the community as it was. Like I came into the perfect opportunity to have a community that already existed and was excited about the business. And when you are present with your users in the community, especially as founders, and you show up and you show that you care and you actually advocate for the people within your community and you trust them enough to give them a space where they can also talk about your business and your brand together, people are going to talk about you. They're going to talk about you. They're going to be brand loyal to you. When there's bugs and things like that, they're still going to stay strong with you because you built that trust. Pain points and opportunities, this is a big one, right, in the community. So in your community, you can build different programming. You can have a customer advisory board. You can, or excuse me, a community advisory board. You can help literally point the path of your product roadmap with your community because these are the people that are using your product inside and out. Increases lifetime value. We kind of already talked about that, right? And then it gives your business a human element, right? So it just feels more human than like a social media post or a blog post or an email campaign. Not hating on those things. I used to be a marketer. There is business value in those. But I think more and more people are seeing the value of coming to a place, a shared space to be able to talk about your business. So again, very high level. I want to be mindful of time so we can give Hugo some time to come up here. But how would you get started? So especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're like thinking you want to start a community, but you're like, where do I get started? Honestly, start small and start super scrappy and just start listening. That's the biggest thing. So start listening to the people that are already talking to you. So think about who this community would be for and why would they want to be involved, right? So get out a piece of paper, write down like, who are the people that would want to be involved in our community and what would they want to get out of it, right? So then how can the community help reach their goals? So you're going to think about like, what are all the different goals that the people that are using my product, that are using your brand's product, what are they trying to reach? Think about it beyond your product as well. I think about Softr, for example, and our experts, right? So we have an expert program, as many of you are probably familiar with these programs. So I think about them and it's like, not only are they wanting to become super users of our product, so we're going to be there to support them in that, but they also want to build a successful business. They want to be able to have leads that come to them seamlessly. They want to know how to create a beautiful contract and figure out when things get messy and all of the things that come with like building a business. So with my job, I'm also thinking about how can I help them reach goals that are beyond Softr itself. That is like the bread and butter. So really think about that with your product and then what's going to intrinsically motivate them beyond the product itself. And then how can we inspire them to create shared experiences beyond the community? So this is the last piece. So for the first two, you want to brainstorm your community, you want to think about what their goals are and how you can meet those goals. And then from there, you're going to create programming and you're going to test and you're going to figure out what sticks and you're going to talk to your community about what they need and you're going to create stuff for them. Then the next step is to think about this from the beginning, but how can you create a community that is still thriving even with you taking your hands off the reins? To me, this is like this is what's going to work at scale. Think about Notion. Notion has a fully distributed community where they are just allowing their community to decide what they want to do. So the community says, I really want to start a chapter of Notion people in Arizona. I'm super excited. They're like, great. Here's a package on how you can do that. Take pictures, we'll promote it for you, et cetera, et cetera. That has, I mean, I'm sure we're all familiar with Notion in their community. Like that's absolutely led to their valuation, is this kind of grassroots ability to take the reins off, take the control off, and make the community more distributed. So try to think about how can I let go of control a little bit as a business owner or as somebody that's in charge of the community and allow and encourage my community members to want to go and do things on their own. So start small. I would say just start talking to people, grassroots on a very small level, and just start literally asking them what they want. Like set up one-on-ones. I had a lot of one-on-ones with Softr folks over the past month. This is my sixth week at Softr. This is where you'll figure out what your community actually wants. Don't just guess. It's the same with building a product, right? You don't just like guess what your users want, you talk to them. So try to figure out how the community can support them. Another tip is to optimize for 1 to 2 objectives at first. So your community, you should be tracking, right, the success of your community. That's a huge thing. So if you feel like you want to optimize for customer success, customer support, say, okay, at first, we're just going to really optimize for this. And we're going to create programming that really supports customer support. And we're going to track things like ticket deflection and time to answer and things like that. So start there and determining what kind of community you want to set up. And then it can grow from there. And do things that don't scale in the beginning. So the one-on-one conversations, the meetups for coffee, the talking to people, the setting up little advisory boards, like do all of that first as your foundation, and then it will grow from there. Community is kind of a slow burn. It takes a while, but then it's like has compounding effect. And over time, you'll see the results, as long as you just keep showing up for your people. So that was my very high level community chat. We will do questions at the end for both Hugo and I, but I thought about this talk and like, it's the Nocode conference, but the biggest thing about being a community person is I feel very strongly that like, I'm not building the community for you, we are building it together. So you want to think about that, and you always want to think about how you can be an advocate for your community members. So in that fashion, I would love to invite one of our community members up here to talk about just his experience with Softr. He has an incredible story, also from Paris, just right down the road. So welcome, Hugo, and I'll let you take it over. Is it not working? Oh,
no, it's not working.
Do you want to connect to my my phone?
Maybe.
This worked on my phone. One moment. There are some Wi-Fi.
I'm sure you're pretty all aware that the Wi-Fi is not great today. And I do not
So allow others to join. It should be iPhone. There it is.
Okay.
You see the joke?
One of the two, I don't really know. It was like, you're gonna fix this. Just shut them and keep the speakers open. Do you know the talks?
It work?
I don't know, that's right. The technician is coming.
It should work.
I was playing with it earlier. It's not doing anything.
I don't think so.
Does somebody want to come? Like, that's okay. We'll tell them after. It's a sauna. Something is happening, but it's not.
Something on the screen.
Maybe the heat is turned on.
The heat?
No, I don't think so.
It's the body heat.
Go outside in town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me.
You can. Yeah. I'm good.
Fingers crossed. It's still working.
No, we can all wrap around your mouth.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, while we wait, I'm curious if you guys are involved in any communities besides Softr, as I know the people that are involved in Softr. Are you guys, anyone? Just shout it out.
Yeah, the Softr community. It's like
Yeah, Softr? Yeah. Oh, hi. Any others?
Squarespace.
Squarespace, me too. Squarespace. Yeah, they have a great community.
Yeah, there's a couple really good ones right now.
Mm-hmm.
Small bets community.
Small bets.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's basically so, and Softr is actually
Easy.
great for your
Just 1 second, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna start with your computer because
Yeah,
it's
that's
taking ages to do.
Okay, let's do that. Is it working on mine?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, and we can do question and conversation. I wanted to save more time for questions and convo after. That's the best part.
Hopefully with software we don't have any technical issues.
Tell Archer no releases right now.
Perfect. Still loading. Let's see. It's okay. Perfect. So, good morning, everyone. I'm really happy and proud to be here today to speak with Lizzie. I'm a software user, as you might heard, and went from 0 to 15,000 users with Nocode and Softr in 2 years. And this is my story. So my name is Hugo Maréchal. I'm the founder and CEO of Class. Welcome to my Nocode journey. So first things first, what is Class? At Class, we are doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, entrepreneurs, marketers, with one goal: improve our scale worldwide with technology. And we started with a product, which is an online training platform for doctors and medical staff. Right now, we have more than 15,000 learners, 50 trainings, 40 teachers, and we crossed 2 million ARR 1 year ago, and still not have a single line of code. So it's possible. It's possible. So, but let's go back to the past, because we started in 2018, and in 2018, I'm a non-technical founder, so my biggest problem was how to start. How to start when you are an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, you always have this good excuse to say, I do not have a CTO, so I don't start. And so we decided to start with a stack, which at the time was pretty common, with WordPress, Elementor, and Typeform. And then, and honestly, with only a few classes, it was okay. But when you start to scale, I do not advise you to be on that. And so we just came to Nocode by necessity, but we stayed by choice. And we are really happy with what we are doing today, thanks to Softr. And I think it's really delightful for our users. It empowers our team, and as well magnify our product. So I had this demo, but I know there is nothing now, so it's going to be super complicated. But maybe after we're gonna go on my website, and I will be able to show you a few things and how we do it with Softr, because it's complicated with my current tutor. And that's what's behind the curtain. What's behind our Softr, what we do, why we use Softr. I think one of the most underrated things about Softr, it's how powerful it is to do search, filter, and sorter. I think it's wonderful the way you can do it. You have more than 30 plus dynamic layout. You can do real-time dynamic search. I have few examples. This example, the emergency toolkit and resource directory, are not our core product. It's just only products that we have built for our community. And thanks to Softr and the power of Airtable, it's super easy for anyone to create this kind of database, and which is really, really useful in the day-to-day life, or for instance, our physiotherapist for the resource directory, and to all doctors with our emergency toolkit. So as I say, Softr is simple, but not simplistic, and it's really powerful. And I think, like, maybe you're all on Airtable, you all know Airtable? Yes. Yeah. And when you harness the power of Airtable combined to the simplicity of Softr, you can do anything you want. Maybe not anything, but many things. And as well, you can, of course, embed other tools. And you have seamless integration. For instance, we use Tally. We do not use Softr forms because we have something a little bit complicated with the state, the way we are organized, because the education we provide is subsidized, and so it's a little bit our specificity. But Softr forms are really well as well. We have a calendar integration, Intercom. We have a Trustpilot review integration, so you have live all our Trustpilot reviews, and it's super easy. You have, for instance, like, it's pretty beautiful the way you can have your Tally inside your Softr using the pop-up. Maybe if the signal allows me, I will be able to show you. And more than that, we really built a Softr into wings, and we are proud to announce that we are doing a proof of concept with the PHP. In PHP, it's like the Parisian hospitals. It's the first employer in the Parisian area, and we created with Softr this proof of concept, which is a gated content with personal space for the administrative teams to manage training needs inside the hospital. And that was it for the slides part, but I would like to show you a few stuff directly on the page, and see if it works. I hope so.
Yeah, you
Pretty.
are keyword.
Okay, and as well, I created something for you guys. Yes, you talked to me, but that was this morning, so you are very late. So this is our software. We believe like the design is pretty neat. You are able to add like that kind of GIF, which is pretty cool, I think. And what is the best part for me and that I love is really the way you can find your trainings. So it's really simple. You just have to choose your job, if you're a physiotherapist, for instance, and boom, you have all the training for physiotherapists. And this is super easy to create inside Softr. You have what we call list and list details. And so this is a kind of list, but I created for you quickly also kind of list. And honestly, once you have your data in Airtable, it's only 30 seconds to create your list and to have something like this ready to go. So this is what they call now, but I have a better example for this. I'm going to show you a great example of that, which is really used and really powerful. Just I don't know the URL perfectly. This is on one of our websites.
We forget the Nocode.
Okay, see again. But it's painful, huh? Honestly, don't know why.
Don't start a war.
So basically, this is a directory with all the scores, tests, and scale that you use when you're a physiotherapist. And so what we have done, it's a really simple product with all the parts of the body. And after that, so if you want the shoulder, you have all the tests for the shoulder. And so you can navigate there and select the one you want to see. And you are able to have the PDF and download it. And even with the search, it works really well. And it's used by many people as well. You can see we have this integration, which was very well as well. So we have new users. That's a good. That's a good thing during the last hours. That's a good thing as well. And I think it's really good. After that, I wanted to show you like the way, for instance, we integrate with Tally. So for instance, it's so a list detail. So you have the list, and after that we have the list details. And so you have all the elements that you can find in your Airtable. It's just like you have this Airtable, you have your spreadsheet in Airtable, and it's just easy as filling it. And it really empowers the team, basically, because anyone inside the team can today create and publish training. Anyone is able to fill on Airtable, and so that's really powerful. And you don't need like an integrator or so on, or complicated content management system. It's just you fill a spreadsheet, go boom. You put the pictures in a spreadsheet. Everything is a spreadsheet. You can do a formula as well, like text or concatenation, for example. And this is it. You want to so this one is an old one. So this one's in a study, but I'm going to show you the way we integrate with study because it works pretty well. Thank you.
Very nice.
And so, for instance, you just fill it, and it's okay. You see this way. And we do not. We haven't done the extra job to put the server of that. You can create with Softr even really beautiful pages, like for instance, but it's not. We have this one training done in France. We give one training in another country, and you can have some like pretty advanced design stuff you can do as well in Softr. So that was it. Maybe I could have shown you like a gated space, but the problem is that I can't with a signal so far. So I think like the best is to start with this Q&A, but with the Paris Saint-Germain picture.
you guys have questions about either Hugo's use case, Softr, or community, feel free to ask away. Yes. Yeah.
So working with surgeons, it's the most difficult thing is how to engage them. So do you have any example or feedback how we can help with the engagement?
Yes, definitely. So you said you work with a company that has 200,000 surgeons, right? And what do you guys do for the
Provide training.
provide training? Okay.
You're in France as well? You're in France?
Yeah,
In Switzerland, we have a lot of Swiss here. Okay, so you do training with them, and what is kind of like, what's the struggle on your end? Are you having issues with trying to get them engaged with the training and signing up for the training? Like, what would be the business?
The best is always
Join the training. Okay. So I feel like the first thing is don't try to reach for all 200,000 at first. Communities are going to look very, very different at that scale and that level. I would start lower and smaller, kind of like what I said in the beginning. This can be for big companies, or at the end of the presentation, this can be a strategy for big companies or smaller companies. So the first thing I would probably suggest is to talk to people that are already signed up for your programs, the people that are already engaged. So surgeons that are already using your platform, they're getting training. Let me tell you something I've learned in community. People, if you ask for their opinion and if you say, hey, we're just trying to understand more about what your needs are and what your goals are and why you signed up for this, they will talk to you. And they'll talk to you about a lot of different things. So that's probably the first thing I would do is try to find, do you guys already have people that are engaged, but you're just trying to get more of these people involved, more of these surgeons involved and signed up? So you already have an initial base. Yeah, so I would reach out to them first, create just kind of like one-on-one, like I said, things that don't scale, create one-on-one meetings with them and try to see if you can see that there's a thread of commonality between these people that are signing up, and see if you can figure out, like, between all of these people, what is the overlying goal that they're trying to accomplish and why, what was their motivation for signing up. So then that gives you kind of your community, an MVP version and a hypothesis of what your community goal could be. So then you can work on, do you have any sort of space where people can come together right now?
Yeah. The surgeons are not really social.
Yeah, medical people are not social. But I mean, I wonder, like, like a community doesn't necessarily have to be a place where people are super social. That's a strange thing to say, but it can be a place where they find resources. And I wonder if, like, some of the surgeons want to ask other questions to get opinions about certain new tools or like things that are coming up to the market, and they want an unbiased opinion, and then maybe another surgeon has used that tool. Like, that's not super like social, but it's a place for them to, it feels like a practical place for them to go. So if you could introduce some sort of MVP version of this, but start really small and start with those engaged people and build it with them and try to get them super excited about it. And then they can kind of be the people that go on and advocate for your community and advocate for getting other people involved as well. So like, I always start with the people that are already there and showing up and try to really advocate for them, cultivate them, talk to them, and then eventually they will feel that like intrinsic motivation to want to then speak on behalf of the community and say, yeah, this has actually been really helpful. So then you want to think about, if you do create kind of a community space, whether it's a forum or a Slack group or a Discord or wherever it is, doesn't really matter at the beginning. I wouldn't focus so much on the platform, but you can have them all come together, and you can have the people that have already been engaged come in at first and start these conversations and try to really get them, based off of the information you figured out within the one-on-ones, engaged in this space. And then you can kind of start promoting the space to people that are not already engaged with yours. So I would even like, don't even think about getting people signed up yet. Think about how can we help them reach some other goals that they have and provide a space for that. And then eventually the next natural step will be, hey, I've already built trust with these people. I've built trust with this community they've built for us. I didn't even know that I kind of like needed this, but it's actually been really helpful. Like, I've been trying to look for advice from other physicians about or surgeons about XYZ and these people know, this is great. The natural next step will be, oh, and they also provide, you know, these training services, these tutorials. This is awesome. Of course, I'm going to sign up because I'm already engaged. That was a really long-winded way of saying, like, start with the people already engaged, talk to them. You will, and ask really open-ended questions. You will find out a lot about what's intrinsically motivating them, and then try to create a small little MVP space to bring people together and start meeting those needs that you know that they have through the community. And then from there, they start talking about it, and then you can start promoting it. If you have a newsletter or social media or anything like that, you can say, hey, we have this space, come on in, check it out. We already have some people involved, see what it's about. And then eventually the natural next step will be hopefully that they've built trust, and then they gain interest in these trainings and these programs that you have. Does that help? Sorry?
You can give members a platform too. So anytime you get like a surgeon that has a specialty or is particularly good in a particular area, having members actually have their own platform, so holding a training that has something just like this really, is really, really helpful, because then it's more motivating to engage because you get to see what another community member is doing.
Yeah.
And that's always like really good.
Totally. And like people like to feel like, you know, if someone asks me, hey, like, would you come talk about community because we know you're doing community XYZ, it feels really good to want to help others, and it's kind of like a validation, and you kind of give that to people in a community where you're like, hey, so-and-so doctor, like, I know you're specifically working in this niche with knees or ACLs or something, like, hey, would you want to come on and do a fireside chat or like a talk talking about XYZ in this space, because I've noticed that there's interest in it. That is kind of how it organically starts, but it's a slow burn. It takes a while, so don't get discouraged, but just start by talking to the people that have already been signing up and just having open-ended conversations, and you'll start to connect the dots and see what you can provide for them. Does that help? Okay, that was a lot. Sorry, don't want to overwhelm.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hello. What's the thing that you struggle the most as a community manager?
I knew you would ask me this. She's also a community manager. What do I start with? Burnouts, I think, is a big one for community managers. I think community managers are natural people pleasers, for better or worse. Like, I really genuinely, I used to be a designer, but now I'm in community because I love people and I love being a helper, and I felt like I was more close to that. So, but when you extend yourself too much, that can lead to burnout. So you have to really work on boundaries. Tangible business value, it's there, but it can be hard sometimes to measure. So you have to be very, very focused on what you are optimizing your community for, and have just a few metrics that can really prove. So when the board comes in or executives come in and they're like, okay, is this working? You can say, yeah, actually, here, these are the 3 things we were optimizing for, but that can sometimes, as you probably know, be difficult, but it's not impossible. But you have to stay very focused and, again, start small. Yeah.
Actually, to follow up on that, is there like a community for community leads?
There's a lot of community for community leads. It's very meta. Are you interested? There's several and they're really great.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just started like a few months ago as well.
You did? Okay,
yeah.
Let's connect after this. There's some really incredible resources that have come out literally just in the past couple of years. Like 10 years ago, I wish we had this. There's a lot of really great people. We're learning from each other. There's courses, there's cohorts, there's meetups in person. So yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, as per example, what were the one or two main objectives that Softr followed?
Yeah. So right now, Softr has kind of 2 community objectives. So we have a very visible community of support that we're trying to optimize for right now. Basically, Softr started as a Slack group. Miriam and Artur were very grassroots about it, but it's turned into a place where a lot of people are just kind of it's like a glorified support channel. And Slack is not a platform. I will say platform doesn't matter, but if you know you want to scale your support efforts and that's what your community is going to be for, don't go with Slack. It just is not a place for that. We can get into that later. So we're learning that it's kind of turning into the support channels. That's where we funneled people to, and that's not really good for scaling. So we're working on moving support off of Slack and onto our community forum, which is public facing. It's indexable, it has search history. So the first one is really optimizing for our community of support. So we're looking at things like ticket deflection, time to answer, how many questions have been answered by the community. And part of that is building programs like a moderator program, super user program, gamification, those types of different things, as well as education. So education is going to be like the bedrock that everything sits on, because the more we can educate and empower our users from the beginning, the less they're going to even really need support and going to the forum, and the more they're going to feel empowered to want to come to the forum and help others. So we're really creating what that looks like as a tangible program outcome is education. So like a lot of education. And then also though, so that's our first objective. Our second objective is with our internal community, which is our experts, our ambassadors, our affiliate folks. They are more internal facing. We have a space for them, and our main objective there is going to support our main acquisition focus. So we're looking more at, based off of people like within our community, how many users have they been able to acquire and bring to Softr based off of our programming. So how many users, so we're looking at our experts, like how many users are they new customers are they bringing in? Same with our ambassador program, influencers eventually we will do. So we have targeted programming for all of them as well to help support them in their goals. And so we are going to be tracking that. Again, it's week 6 of me being here, but this is the plan, but yeah. Does that help answer?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you doing that in-house, or using third-party for the actual forum management for either side?
Forum manage. So we're on Discourse, our public forum. I'm helping with that. Our support team is also I'm basically training our support team in community management right now, because my main focus as a community manager is going to be more on the internal programs. But because we're small and scrappy, and eventually we'll have community team focused just on support, community team focused on our programs. So I'm kind of training our support team on setting up the moderator program. And because right now, to be honest with you, a lot of it is, our support team's amazing at Softr. I don't know if you guys have ever interacted with them, but that's one thing we have going really well for us. A lot of them are the ones answering right now in the forum, but the goal is to get it to a place where they are able to take a step back, because the community is now engaging and answering questions and stuff like that. But we're still at the very beginning stages. So they're basically managing that. And then what was your other question?
Just for the experts and stuff, are you using?
I'm doing all that.
Is it so is there, and Mary was talking about the expert.
Yeah.
Is it all happening inside Softr, or is there another tool that you're sending people to?
So for the experts program, we use Slack as communication tool, and then we use Softr we have a portal where our leads come through. We have and then we kind of do we're going to do monthly events and roundtables and stuff for the experts and stuff like that. Yeah. And even things like helping them build contracts, and there's a lot. At the time. Okay.
So a bit more fundamental question about community.
Yeah.
Essentially, you want people to be engaged, and that costs time on the user's end. And like you said, you are a part of multiple communities as well. Me personally, I value real life contact a bit over digital, which is a problem for me with communities, because I don't feel like I get the same sort of dopamine and good feelings of that. So how do you reconcile the fact that real life might be a bit better for some, and then it costs a lot of time to maintain the community on the user's end if they're really engaged in it, and they might have multiple ones?
Absolutely. So the first part is, there is no reason why you can't do in-person community. That's actually what I got my start in. I started in nonprofits. My job was setting up local physical communities across the US. And I think especially after COVID, we're getting fatigued with online. And I know what you mean. I log into my Slack and I have 10 communities on Slack, and they all have notifications. I get overwhelmed. And that's a very real thing, but it's not something that I stress out about. It's something that it's even if as a community, it's not even about the amount of people that are there. It's about kind of having a core group that's your core group. And so everyone kind of has 1 or 2 communities that they probably go to the most online. I know that's how I am. And that's fine. That works great. But in terms of offline, I would say, to answer your question, are you saying how do we, help me answer your question?
Well, the 10 Slack community is a good example because I just deleted all of my communities. I was like, I don't
It's too
feel, I
much.
really don't feel part of any single one of them. I'm even an ambassador for some tools, but I really have disconnected with the tool because it's just, the time and the engagement. I don't feel connected enough to really keep up with it.
Interesting. So, but you're a freelancer, right? So, like, what do you feel like you want out of, if you were a part of a community right now, what could a community do to help you reach your goals? Like, what are you struggling with right now in your business? It doesn't even have to do with Nocode. Or what are you looking for? Like, as an example, I'll give you an example. Our experts, for example, like I had a conversation with some of our experts last week, right? So they're in our community. Something they're struggling with is one expert has, like, he's really good at this thing in Softr, but he's not so good in the other few things. This other expert feels like they excel in X, Y, Z and other things. So how can we bring these experts together and allow them to like collaborate with each other and say, hey, it's kind of like a, what's it called, a collective, where it's like, I'm gonna hire you for my job because we have this relationship, so I'm gonna facilitate that. So that gives them an incentive to show up because that's something they really tangibly need because they've told me. So I feel like I know when I was a Squarespace designer, for example, I was a Squarespace expert. Like I really showed up in Squarespace the most because that's what I was designing with my clients a lot. People will come and go from communities too. It's really normal to have that behavior of like one community suits you for a while as I'm building with Squarespace, but then I start to get a lot of clients with Webflow and I need to go over to the Webflow community because I need to get ideas and support from them. That's a natural behavior too. But if you're also just like fatigued from all the communities and you feel like you're not getting value out of any of them, then I feel like communities either aren't showing up and like helping you reach the goals that you have set for yourself, or it's a very real thing to just like not want to be online right now because it's a lot. But in person is very much alive, and that's something we're going to do at Softr, but that's going to be part of the distributed strategy, right? So I don't have to manage and organize every single on or offline event. Somebody's going to come to me and they're like, hey, I really just want to like connect with other no-coders, Softr people in the Netherlands. And we're like, awesome. Here's our little packet of how to do it. We'll send you some swag. We'll send you some pizza, but like you go off and do it. That's going to be happening, I think, a lot more in communities because online. Is anyone else online fatigued? I know I am, and I'm a community manager. So this is something that
is big though, like connecting people, like knowing who is in your community and how to connect them. I think that's like the biggest. Of all the successful communities I've seen, that's been the #1 thing is, do you know your community members enough to be able to connect them with that?
Yeah, and not even have to talk to the brand. Like I want people in the Softr community to just like be doing things on their own and I don't even know about it, or they tell me about it after the fact. I'm like, that's the goal. Like they're helping each other reach their goals without me even having to like facilitate it at first. And I always go back to Notion because they're a great example of that. Anything else? Great questions. I'm gonna go jump in a pool now. Thank you guys so much.